Hey, what's up you guys? It's Jack, aka Summoner6, and welcome back to another video. Yes, in today's video, we're going to be using win rate in order to figure out what top 3 agents you should be playing to maximize the number of wins you could get in your games. For these stats, we're going to be using patches 1.11 and 1.12 statistics pulled from Blitz.gg's application. So, if you don't know anything about Blitz, Blitz is a great app. I'm not sponsored by them, so I'm not going to go into huge details, but they only pull game data if you own the app, like if you have it downloaded onto your computer, and you play the game. So, these stats are going to skew a little bit more towards higher ranks. I think the most played and the most tracked games are in Platinum right now, and then I think it's Diamond and then Silver. But we're going to be doing an analysis from Iron all the way up to Diamond, and then skipping out on Immortal because the number of games is actually really low, and I think that the stats might throw those off. Plus, if you're Immortal, you're probably pretty good at least one agent already, and this is more about climbing for you statistically. And with that, one friendly reminder, don't forget to absolutely obliterate the like button down below and turn it blue for the YouTube algorithm. It helps me out a lot. And don't forget to hit subscribe down below and turn that notification bell on in order to get notified whenever one of my videos goes live. And with that, let's get in to the video. So basically the way I wanted to approach this is I wanted to showcase each rank, the top 3 agents with the highest win rates in those ranks, and they're going to be placed in S, A, and B tier for first, second, and third highest win rates respectively. I'm also going to go over any notes, anything notable that I found while doing this research in each tier. So we're actually going to start in Iron. Yes, lovely Iron, the place where anything is possible. We're going to start in this S tier box, which is going to be our highest win rate agent, and that is going to be, where is she? There she is. Killjoy. Killjoy in Iron, specifically, Iron Games, has a 54.4% win rate on average. Almost 55% of the time that you see a Killjoy in a game in Iron, you are likely to win as that Killjoy. That's pretty incredible. The second highest here is going to be Cypher. Where is Cypher? There he is. Cypher at a 52.55% win rate in Iron. And then third, to round off this list, is going to be Reyna. She's right there. Boom, boom, boom. 1, 2, 3. Reyna has a 51.34% win rate in Iron. Now, the thing to note is that the lowest played agent at this rank is Breach with only 326 games played and a 47% win rate. He also has the lowest win rate in Iron. I think that's largely due to the fact that you need at least some level of coordination with your team in order to play Breach decently well. And not only are people just not playing him because there is no coordination in Iron, but also because of that reliance, it means that you don't want to play him. So it's kind of a cyclical thing. And yeah, the main notes to point out for Iron are Reyna is a pub stomping agent. So if somebody is smurfing, or let's say somebody is actually like gold rated or whatever, makes a smurf account, kind of like me, and gets placed in Iron, they're probably going to be inclined to play Reyna in order to carry their games as their top fragger and keep snowballing themselves into free wins. The Cypher and Killjoy, the main reason why I think they're rated so high is mainly because of tilts. And this is actually a theme that I think that you'll see across a lot of the ranks, is when you are a Sentinel and you start on defense, a lot of the momentum of games is based off of how many rounds you are up by at the turn of another round. So let's say you're a Sentinel main and you start on defense as Cypher or Killjoy or even Sage. If you win or you're up 9-3 by the end of that round, because most maps are defensive sided and you're also playing a defensive focused agent, I'd say the other side's pretty tilted and unmotivated at that point, and they're just trying to scrape by as many rounds as they possibly can before losing. And putting the enemy in that mindset is going to net you more wins over time. It's winning by tilt, and I think that that's something that is very common with the Sentinels on defensive-sided maps, starting on defense, and I think that's where that statistic is going to come through from. The other thing for me is that Killjoy, being such a high win rate at nearly 45.5%, I think that's mainly because of her kit. It makes her the strongest anchor agent in the game, so you can solo hold a site, even 1v5 in some cases, especially in ranks like Iron up through even Gold, you could be able to just get like 1v5 aces if you're defending a site that they all happen to execute on, if you play it right. And I think that's one of the benefits of Killjoy, is that you can kind of play through yourself and play on your own and carry by being defensive and by being passively aggressive, if that makes sense. All right, so now let's talk about bronze. So in first place in S tier for bronze, the highest win rate in bronze is going to be Skye at 53.8% win rate. Second place is going to be Jett with a 52.74% win rate. And then third is going to be Reyna with a 51.77% win rate. Now, the lowest played in this case is Viper, and she has 3,260 games played, which is exactly 10 times the number of games tracked and played by Breach in bronze. So many more games happening in, or Breach in iron. So many more games happening in bronze. Now, Viper, as a coincidence, actually doesn't have the lowest win rate. She's sitting around a 48% win rate in bronze. There's a couple who are down in 47%, but most likely players don't know how to play around her, and likewise, players don't know how to play around the new agent Skye, which is why I think she has such a high win rate at this tier. I wouldn't necessarily recommend playing her unless you think that you're stuck in iron, bronze, silver area and you think that you can use her to climb out. One of the things that you start to notice is newer agents will always have a decently higher win rate in lower tiers after a couple days since the agent's been out. Because if you figure out the agent and other people don't spend the time to research it, you can net yourself some free wins by knowing how the mechanics of that agent work. I mean, if you don't know that the flashes can be killed or whatever, then Skye's flashes seem super OP because they're hard to turn. And also the fact that Skye knows when she's blinded someone. That's a huge amount of information. So what I would recommend just by looking at this is if you're in bronze to iron and you're interested in just getting some free wins, you could try picking up Skye, watch a couple of YouTube videos on how to play her in a more advanced way, and you should find yourself winning more than you're losing if you just are going to go by a sample size of just playing games. And then the next two, Jett and Reyna, are traditional pub stomp agents. You're going to see these commonly throughout the lower ranks in iron up through about platinum. Reyna and Jett are going to be really strong because if you're diamond plus and you're smurfing, you're probably going to be put in one or a few of these games and you're going to bolster up the win rate just because you're a better player. And that's the main reason why these two agents are higher up. Now, I will say, if you think you are more skilled than your ranked says you are, I would basically recommend playing Jett and Reyna. I think that they're both good, solid agents. I think that if you are better than your rank says you are, you will win more games over time by playing agents like this because they snowball really hard, not only in rounds, but in games. So keep that in mind when you're picking agents to play. All right, now we're moving on to silver. One quick note going into silver, Reyna is not in the top 3 for this one, even though she's a pub stomper, I know. Shocking, but she is the most played at this rank. So keep that in mind. There's a lot of games that went through in silver. There's a lot of games that were analyzed and played. So this is one of the better in terms of accuracy percentages that we have. So keep that in mind when we go over the statistics of these agents. So in first is going to be Killjoy. And Killjoy has a 51.44% win rate in silver, which is really high based off of the volume of games that we have in terms of data. Next, second is going to be Phoenix at 51.3% win rate. Almost exactly. And then third is going to be Sage. Quite a shocker, actually, at 51.2% win rate in silver. So the least played again is Viper with about 4,000 games played. And she's actually sitting at a nice 49.73% win rate, really close to 50%. And something that I thought was interesting about silver is that only 5 agents actually have a win percentage in silver. And they are these 3 agents and then Jett and Reyna. And Jett and Reyna are in the lower 50s. So it's like 50.9, 50.8%. And then everyone else has a losing win rate. So Viper is actually doing relatively average at this tier of play. I think a lot of this is because of the added power that Sage's ultimate gives. So it will naturally tend her towards having a higher win rate rather than a lower one, simply because she has one of the few Rezes in the game, the other one being Phoenix. And you're starting to understand how much power you can add in via just having a Rez, maybe 3 times per half, 2 to 3 times. They can completely shift the momentum of a round and can actually turn what would have been a lost round into a 1 round and completely change how the economy works, etc., which is why Sage is so strong. Phoenix, I think, is very strong in silver because he is the most basic entry fragger in the game. So he'll be the easiest to pick up. He's very easy to play because entry is all about going in and essentially dying for information and early picks. So if you're decently good at handling your aim, crosshair placement, and you know when you're supposed to be flashing, when you're supposed to be ulting, etc., and you have good understanding and awareness of your timings, you're actually going to see Phoenix do relatively well. Even on defense, he can actually put out a level of aggression that still is passive enough to play defensively. He can also utilize his utility really flexibly, both on offense and defense, and holding particular positions on the map, whether they're key positions or sites themselves. So because of the flexibility and versatility of Phoenix, that could be one of the reasons why you see him there, coupled with the fact that he's the easiest entry fragger to play. And then the last one, Killjoy. We kind of talked about it with Iron, but she's the best anchor in the game right now. She's by far going to have the highest win rates more often than not, mainly because of the fact that she can 1v5 on defense. And defense, like I said, most maps are defensively sided, so pairing a good defensive agent with the fact that maps are mostly defensively sided means that you should get a lot more wins out of an agent like that. So, hence, Killjoy. So in gold, we're going to see a couple of familiar faces. First and foremost, we're going to have Killjoy in our #1 spot again. Killjoy in gold is going to have a 52.3% win rate, so relatively high. Now, gold is actually kind of like Iron. It has a low amount of games to look at the stats on. So Killjoy being at 52.3% is, there's a little bit of variance that could be in there, about 1% variance, kind of the same with Iron, where her win rate was around 54.5. So this one could be anywhere from 51.3 up to 53.3. So we don't know, but sticking with the raw stats that we have right now, Killjoy is at a 52.3% win rate in gold. Very, very strong agent. The second agent that we have here is actually Sage, at a 51.87% win rate. Still relatively strong, still a sentinel, still very good. And then last but not least, our third agent is going to be another familiar face from a little while ago, Reyna. Reyna is going to round out our gold win rate agents for this patch. And we've kind of talked about these 3 agents before already. I think Sage is starting to increase a little bit in value at this point because of the value of having that extra teammate from her ultimate, and you're probably starting to use her heal a little more efficiently, and you probably understand how you're supposed to use her abilities to stall the enemy for defense, which enables you to be even better on defense, kind of like a Killjoy, but not as good of an anchor as Killjoy. You don't have as many defensive tools that deal damage or get you information. You're much more of a, hey guys, they're rushing B, and I'm going to stall them with my wall and my slows, and I'm going to heal myself, etc. Killjoy is a lot more, yeah, my stuff's going to deal damage to them, get me the information, and I'm probably going to get some picks, and if they rush me, I'm probably going to kill all of them. So that's the difference between the two. Sage is a lot more stall oriented, and people in gold probably understand that a little bit more. So hence, her win rate goes up because of defensive sidedness of maps. Reyna is another pub stomp ancient like Jett, and you're going to see her somewhere around the top 3, if not just below those areas, because of that nature of the agent, her ability to win games just on her own and solo carry. If you're a very good player, is going to be second to none. Nobody else is going to be able to do it quite like Reyna. The closest is going to be Jett, and that's why you're going to see them generally near each other around the top 3 area. So at Platinum, we have a couple familiar faces and then someone brand new. So first, I don't know if you could have guessed it or not yet, but it's going to be Killjoy again. Killjoy has a 53.43% win rate as of recording this in November, mid-November. And yeah, she has a pretty solid win rate just across the board. This is one of her higher ones, and also Platinum is the most games that we have for one singular rank. So if we're trying to deduce like how strong agents are, we generally use Platinum and Diamond from Blitz as well as Silver. And Killjoy has been the top spot in Platinum with a 53 almost and a half % win rate. So it's by quite a big margin that Killjoy is seen as this good of an agent. The second highest win rate agent, though, is going to be a little bit shocking. And that's actually going to be Brimstone at almost a 53% win rate. He's actually at 52.92%, which is huge. That's really, really high, especially for a rank that we have so much data on. And I'm going to go into why I think it's that high in a second after I introduce our third agent at this tier, which is Sage at a 52.27% win rate. Everyone else is below a 51% win rate in this tier of play. Now, Viper is still the least played agent throughout all of this. Only Breach has been least tiered in Iron, or least played in Iron. Viper has been the least played across all other ranks of play, but in almost all ranks, she has around a 50% win rate. In Platinum, she has a 49.77% win rate. So still pretty solid. Now, one of the reasons why I think Brimstone gets added into the tier list at this point, gets into the top 3 and breaks in really because he actually has a sub 50% win rate. In fact, he has an abysmal win rate around the silver to bronze range. It's around like 47%. But why he breaks out in Platinum is because of his ability to be played around by his team, and team play becomes a lot more prevalent in Platinum and beyond because your teammates are actually just around as good as you mechanically and also in an understanding of the game. And secondly is what he's able to do with that team play. Brimstone is by far the best agent at fast executing a site strategically. He can place all 3 of his smokes onto a site in an instant. It will completely change how that site plays. It will completely change how the enemies have to approach that site. He can use his Molotov. He can use his ultimate. He has a lot of control and denial, and he's very, very easy to pick up and play. Especially from someone who's come from CSGO, all of his utility is going to feel completely easy to understand for people like that. And it's my belief that people who played a lot of CSGO are probably in the Platinum to Diamond range of Valorant, and Brimstone would probably be the perfect agent for them to pick up, hence the higher win rate. Now, there's less pub stomping available in the Platinum Plus tiers, so you're not going to see as much of the Reyna and the Jett super high win rates, even in breaking into the top 3. I think they still have a positive win rate in this area. I think Jett actually is just below 50%, but I'm pretty sure that Raze, Reyna, and Phoenix all have above 50, but below 51% at this tier. And that's just mainly because Raze and Phoenix are easy to play. Reyna is generally considered the pub stomping agent, and Jett takes a little bit more skill to play. So because of that, you're going to see a little bit less pub stomping in this one, and then the final rank that we're going to go over, which is Diamond, which we're going to go over right now. So the last rank we're going to look at is Diamond, and we have a new king in Diamond. It is Sage. Sage has a 53.54% win rate, higher than Killjoy, and kind of comparable number of games between Diamond and Platinum. A little bit less just because there's less Diamond players overall, but still, pretty sizable amount of people. Second highest is going to be Killjoy, still above 53%, so I would say on average Killjoy is just better across the board. But Sage tops it off in Diamond. Killjoy's win rate is 53.12%. And then last, a new face, and we'll talk about her a little bit more when I get to the advice part of the video, but it's going to be Raze. Raze has a 52.08% win rate, and relatively high, especially for Diamond. Now, we've already talked in pretty great detail about Sage and Killjoy. And one of the things I just want to point out about Sage that is a misconception is a lot of people say that Sage is an easy agent to play. and that it's easy to understand how her kit works. It's very one-dimensional. She has one thing that she's really good at, and that's healing and stalling. She's really good at just making sure that the round goes longer, or that it takes the enemy team longer to get to the finish line or win the round, or even prevents them from winning because of that. I hard disagree, and you can see this in my previous tier list video when I go over agents that you should main, agents that are good to one trick. When I basically break down each of these agents, I'll put a link to that video in the description if you want to take a look at it. But I think Sage is actually one of the more difficult agents to play. I think that in order to utilize her kit effectively, you need to have a really, really good understanding of map awareness, of timings, and of when to use that utility. When is it actually needed to be used? Because all of her utility is relatively weak. But when put together and used correctly, it is very, very strong. She has the exact same utility that she had all the way back in beta. The difference is in its relative strength when used immediately in a round. And that is the biggest difference. So figuring out your timings with Sage, when you're going to be able to use your ulti, when you're going to be able to use your heal most effectively, when you're going to be able to use your wall and your slows most effectively is paramount, and that makes her perfect to be used in higher levels of play. She is going to carry you at the higher tiers of play. If you're in Diamond, learning how to play Sage really, really well, or even Platinum, is going to help you tremendously with your game sense, because if you're losing constantly with Sage, then there's something off about your actual map awareness and your understanding of the timings of the game. So because of that, I actually recommend Sage to be played by a lot of higher tier players who are trying to get into Immortal, because it will help you learn that aspect of the game. Now, the last person to talk about is Raze. So this agent is great. One of the reasons why I think she's on here is because it's very easy to understand what she's supposed to do. So she is the damage agent. She has a little bit of skill expression because of her blast packs, as well as how her ultimate and her Roomba can be used. But because of the fact that she is the premier damage agent, she will always do the most damage out of any agent because her entire kit is made up of damage. It makes her very easy to pick up and play. And she fits in almost any team composition because she's able to incorporate damage. And on top of that, she's good on pretty much any map that you play on. So because of her map versatility, she also could just see higher win rates overall. Even if she just is marginally better on every map, that means that she's better than almost every agent, because not every agent can be played on every map. If that makes sense, if you follow that line of reasoning. So some advice. These are different agents to learn based off of these win rates that I've shown you. Obviously, Killjoy is going to give you the highest win chances any game that you dive into, probably somewhere between a 52 to 54% win rate. So just based off of that, if you just want to go by statistics and you're like, hey, I want to play whatever is the strongest agent right now that's pretty easy to pick up, I recommend Killjoy. If you just want quote-unquote free wins, you should probably learn how her kit works well and what you should be doing as her, so maybe watch at least one YouTube video on Killjoy. But other than that, like, go ham, man. It's all up to you how you want to play the game, and if you're just looking for wins, boom, Killjoy, she's right there for you. But like I said about Diamonds, if you are going to just try to learn the game, I would say I would learn Sage instead. Because outside of this patch, I feel like Riot isn't going to touch Sage based on the state of play that she's in. I believe Morello has said that that Sage is in a particularly balanced state. So because of that, I would presume that Riot wouldn't touch Sage based off of where she's at right now, which is actually really good because her win rate scales up over time. She has a higher and higher win rate the higher and higher in ranks you go. And if you can figure out Sage early on, that's only going to help you later down the road. So I could recommend Sage as a one-trick agent if you're just looking to help benefit your team, help do all of that jazz. I would say learn Sage. Now, she's a little bit harder to play if you're stuck in like the Diamond area. It's a bit harder to carry as Sage. I might recommend somebody else. But overall, if you're trying to learn the game, you're trying to master the game, you maybe want to go pro, I would say Sage is probably the agent to start learning all of the ins and outs of right now, because she's not going to change for a little while. At least, I don't think so. Next would be learning Reyna. So if you truly do believe you are in a lower rank than you deserve to be in, The way that you test that is by playing Reyna. Reyna is the agent that you play to climb if you are better than the people who are currently at your rank. You will win more often than you lose if you are actually better than your rank. That is the way that pub stomping works. That is just the way that games have always worked. There are certain agents, and just like there are certain champions in League, that you can play. If you have mastered other mechanics of the game, you will win more often than you lose as long as you play enough games. So, if you truly believe you are not at the rank that you're supposed to be at and that frustrates you, I would recommend you play Reyna. Now, Viper is one of my favorite agents. She is actually a very decent agent. So because of the fact that she's probably going to get buffed or reworked, I would recommend checking her out, playing a couple games as her, figuring out how she should be best played around, just so that when she does become meta in the whatever distant future, could be near, could be far, then at least you know how to play around her and how to play with her, because that's going to be the biggest thing, is she needs to be played with and around in order to be used most effectively. And even if you're not the one playing her, you need to know how to play with her. So just preparing you for the future, Viper is probably going to be in there somewhere, whether it's far away like a year or pretty close as in the next couple patches. So just food for thought, recommendation. You don't have to take it, but that's my 2 cents on Viper. Now, Reyna is by far the most played agent, so she has the most data tracked on her, which is how I also know that if you are truly better, you will just win more games than you lose. She has about a 51 to 52% win rate base overall, and like I said, if you have a 1 to 2% variance, that means it's straight up 50%. Which means that if you truly are better, you will just have a higher win rate on her, and if you are worse, then you will have a lower win rate on her. So that means that it shows you that there's something else that you need to work on in order to climb out of the rank that you're at. So if you are frustrated with your rank, play Reyna. Now, if you are looking for someone who has a consistently high win rate across all ranks, and you don't think will be touched, scratch that, you don't think will be nerfed anytime soon, the one agent that I can recommend to you is Raze. Raze has a positive win rate at every single rank. Raze is not considered a pub stomping agent, so it's not just high rank players that are inflating the win rate. And Raze is very dead simple to play while having some skill expression. The closest she has to an even win rate is a flat 50%, and that's in gold. All other ranks she's at 51% or above. So she has a decently high win rate. It doesn't look like Riot's going to touch her at all, and it's across all ranks. So if you're just trying to climb easily, you just want someone who's going to be consistently there for you, who's going to do decently well, and who has a really dead straightforward playstyle of aggression and dealing damage. Raze is your gal. So that's definitely the agent that I would recommend for any of you who that sounds enticing to it the slightest. And that's all my advice at this point. I think that you could take any of this advice all the way up to Immortal. Like I said, I am not at that rank yet. I'm still doing learning, and that's what this is for. These YouTube videos are not only to help you, but they're also to help me and help our community. And that's why we're here, is to learn more from each other. So this is what I have in terms of stats. These are the raw facts based off of data that has been accumulated from blitz.gg. These are win rates, raw win rates from each of these agents that I had to compile and put together myself based off of each individual tier of play. So I hope you guys take a second to like the video down below if you found any of this information useful, because it took me a really long time to go through and calculate each individual win rate. I think it took me like 7 hours. So I would really appreciate something like that. I'd also really appreciate if you have any questions or comments to leave them down below in the video. I try to respond to every single comment, and so far I've done so. I've responded to every comment I've ever received, so thank you all for the support on the channel. If you have any questions, if you have any agents that you'd like to drop in as recommendations for me to look at, I would love to. I could also share those win rates for each agent. If you're interested, you're like, hey, I'm bronze and I main Omen, what's his win rate? Just out of curiosity, I could tell you, oh, it's like 49.7% or something. And I can keep that updated for you. So whenever you ask, I could just do that math really quick for you. Last but not least, make sure to follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/summoner6. I stream most evenings and afternoons. on Pacific Standard Time. And if you want to interact with me and ask me any questions outside of YouTube, you can follow me at Summoner6 on Twitter. Thank you all so much for watching the video to the end. I really appreciate it. And like I say at the end of every video, stay 6y.